بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء ومرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد السلام عليكم. So today inshallah we'll start or continue the hadith of it's commonly known as the boy and the king or the boy and the magician, and it's a long hadith, but it's a very beautiful hadith, mashallah, and much wisdom is derived from it. This one I'll probably translate as we go along because it's kind of long. On the authority or on Suhaib radiallahu anhu, anna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam qad. So on the authority of Suhaib ibn Sinan Abu Yahya radiallahu anhu, we mentioned his biography previously, I think Sheikh Safi did as well. And I just want to remind the ayah that some scholars say was revealed about Suhaib al-Rumi, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَشْرِي نَفْسَهُ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ رَءُوفٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. That some people, they sell themselves for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah is most keen to protect His servants, right? So in the seerah of Suhaib al-Rumi, he basically gave up all of his wealth to make hijrah to Medina to the Prophet ﷺ. And that's when the Prophet, he said, Rabihat bay'as Suhaib, right? That his transaction, he won, he was successful, meaning he gave up or he bought the akhirah with the dunya. The reason I mentioned the ayat or repeated the ayat because when we read the story of the boy and the king, we'll see also how this young man, he gave up his life also for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also another thing I meant to mention that may not have been mentioned was that when you study the seerah of Suhaib al-Rumi and some of the other companions radiallahu anhum, we see that there's no distinguishing between the Arabs and the non-Arabs. So he was popularly known as Suhaib al-Rumi. He was originally Arab, but he looked like a Roman and he spoke like a Roman because he didn't even hardly have the Arabic language, when he came back to Mecca. Bilal al-Habashi, Salman al-Farsi, right? And each one of these, there's like either an ayah or hadith talking about them being promised Jannah. So it's showing us that in Islam, we don't look at the colors of the skin or which tribe you're from or, which nation, for example, but we look at the taqwa. These are three pillars of Islam, and mashallah, they were all from different regions. And there is different ahadith basically indicating their connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and from them being from the people of paradise. So when they went to ask for marriage, mashallah, do you think any Sahaba would reject them? They married from the noble Arab women, right? It's not like nowadays, subhanAllah, oh, you're not from such and such tribe, or you're such and such color, or you're this. No, their criteria was taqwa. So those are 2 points I just want to mention. I forgot to mention about in the seerah of Suhaib radiallahu anhu. So on this hadith, he says, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, كان مالك في من كان قبلكم وكان له ساحر فلما كبر قال للملك إني قد كبرت فبعث لي إلي غلاما أعلمه السحر. He says that in the time before you, there lived a king who had a court magician. And when the court magician and the sorcerer started getting older, he told the king that I'm growing old, so send me a young person or a young boy that I may teach him the magic. فبعث إليه غلاما يعلمه وكان طريقه إلى سلك راهبا فقعد إليه وسمع كلامه فعجبه. So they sent a young man to this king to learn from, to the sahir, to the magician, to learn from him. And as he would go on his way to learn from the magician, he would notice there was a monk or a worshipper that sat or was on the way between him and the sorcerer. So he would listen to what he said and he liked it. These teachings that the rahib, the monk, was teaching, a pious person. The young boy liked hearing this. وكان إذا أتى ساحر مر بالراهب وقعد إليه فإذا أتى ساحر ضربه. So he used to sit with this monk, but he would be late for his lessons with the sahir, with the magician, and the magician would beat him. فشكى ذلك إلى الراهب فقال إذا خشيت الساحر فقل حبسني الأهلي وإذا خشيت أهلك فقل حبسني الساحر. So the rahib, the monk, he said to him, to avoid getting beat for missing or being late to your lessons. When you go to the magician, tell them that your family kept you late. And when you go to your family, tell them the magician kept you late. And this is so that he can learn about Islam basically from the monk. فبينما هو على ذلك إذا أتى على دابة عظيمة قد حبست الناس فقال اليوم أعلم الساحر أفضل أم الراهب. So things stayed as they were basically until one day he found that there was a beast in the middle of the path blocking the people from passing by, and he said, today I will learn who is on the truth, the magician or the monk, the rahib, the pious one. فأخذ حجرا فقال اللهم إن كان أمر راهب أحب إليك من أمر ساحر فاقتل هذه الدابة حتى يمضي الناس. He said, oh Allah, if that which is with the rahib, the monk, is more pleasing to you than that which is with the sahir, the magician, then kill this beast with this stone so the people can pass by. فَرَمَاهَا فَقَتَلَهَا وَمَضَى النَّاسِ. So he threw the stone and it killed the beast and the people were able to pass. فأتى الراهب فأخبره فقال له الراهب إني أي بني أنت اليوم أفضل مني قد بلغ من أمرك ما أراه. So he went back to the rahib and told him what happened. And the rahib, he said, oh my child, oh my son, verily today you are better than me. You have reached a level that I see. وإنك ستبتلى. And you will be tested, you will be tried. And if you are tested or tried, don't tell about me. Like don't, expose me basically. وكان الغلام يبرئ الأكمه والأبرص ويداوي الناس من سائر الأدواء. And the young man, he used to heal the leopards basically, and the blind ones, and the people who had all types of illnesses. He would give them shifa by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission. فسمع جليس للملك كان قد عمي فأتاه بهدايا كثيرة فقال ما ها هنا لك أجمع إن أنت شفيتني فقال إني لا أشفي أحدا إنما يشفي الله تعالى فإن آمنت بالله تعالى دعوت الله فشفاك. So one of the people of the king's court, he happened to be blind, and he heard about the affair or heard a rumor about this young man. So he went to him with lots of gifts and he said to him, I heard that you can heal the people. Basically, heal me and I can give you all these things. And he said, I don't heal. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala heals. Right? And he said, if you believe in Allah, I will make dua for Allah to heal you. His dua was mustajab. فآمن بالله تعالى فشفاه الله تعالى فأتى الملك فجلس إليه كما كان يجلس فقال للملك من رد عليك بصرك. So he said that he believed in Allah, and the boy made dua for him, and he was healed. He was able to see again. And he went back to the king's court, and he was sitting in the king's court. Obviously, he was blind before, and now he can see. So the king was like, what happened to you? How are you seeing again like that? And he said, قال ربي قال أو لك رب غيري. He said, my Lord. And he said, do you have a Lord other than me? Look at this taghut, like Fir'aun. He said, do you have a Lord other than me? قال ربي وربك الله. He said, my Lord and your Lord is Allah. Look, in such a short time how this person went from kufr to iman. فأخذه فلم يزل يعذبه حتى دل على الغلام. So he took this person who was healed from blindness and beat him and tortured him severely until he told about where this young man was. فجيء بالغلام فقال له الملك أي بني قد بلغ من سحرك ما تبرئ الأكمه والأبرص وتفعل فقال إني لا أشفي أحدا إنما يشفيه الله. He said that, so he had this young man brought to him in court, and he said that, young boy, you have reached like a high level basically. You're healing the lepers, you're healing the blind, you're healing this, you're healing that, you're doing as you will basically. And he said, I don't heal anybody. It's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that heals. فأخذه فلم يزل يعذبه حتى دل على الراهب. So now the king took this boy and started torturing him until he pointed out the worshipper, the rahib, the monk, right? And remember, the monk told him earlier, you're going to be tested, but don't tell about me. Inshallah, when we get to the explanation, we'll talk more about it. But sometimes people, under torture, even no matter how strong they are, sometimes some people crack. So the boy, miskin, he cracked. فجيء بالراهب فقيل له ارجع عن دينك فأبى. So the rahib was called to the court, and the king told him to go back, renege on your faith, and the monk refused to do so. فدعا بالمنشار فوضع المنشار في مفرق رأسه فشقه حتى وقع شقاه ثم جيء بجليس الملك فقيل له ارجع عن دينك فأبى فوضع المنشار في مفرق رأسه فشقه به حتى وقع شقاه ثم جيء بالغلام فقيل له ارجع عن دينك فأبى. So he called the monk to recant on his faith, and he went, so he took and ordered to have him sawed in half from the head down through the body until he was two parts. But he never recanted on his faith. He kept his faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he called the blind person, and the same thing. He cut him in half, and he didn't recant on his faith. And then he called the young boy, and the boy refused to recant on his faith as well. فدفعه إلى نفر من أصحابه فقال اذهبوا به إلى جبل كذا وكذا فاسعدوا به الجبل فإذا بلغتم ذروته فإن رجع عن دينه وإلا فاطرحوه. So he told the boy, he told a group of his soldiers basically take the young man up onto the mountains and ask him if he will recant on his faith, and if he doesn't recant on his faith, throw him off the mountain, like the highest point of the mountain, the tip of the mountain. فذهبوا به فصعدوا به الجبل فقال اللهم أكفينيهم بما شئت فرجف بهم الجبل فسقطوا وجاء يمشي إلى الملك. So when he got to the point and they tried obviously to get him to recant on his faith, he made dua to Allah. Oh Allah, suffice me of them with whatever you please. Basically take care of them. Allah protect me. And Allah caused the mountain to shake, and they fell off the mountain, and the boy walked down safely, peacefully back to the king. فقال له الملك ما فعل أصحابك فقال كفانيهم الله تعالى فدفعه إلى نفر من أصحابه فقال اذهبوا به فأحملوه في قرقر وتوسطوا به البحر فإن رجع عن دينه وإلا فاقذفوه فذهبوا به فقال اللهم اكفينيهم بما شئت. So then the king basically asked what happened to the people, and he said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took care of them for me. So he ordered another group of soldiers to take him and tie him, in chains and throw him into the sea. And he said, as you go out into the ocean, ask him if he'll recant on his faith. If he doesn't, throw him into the ocean. فانكفت بهم السفينة فغرقوا وجاء يمشي إلى الملك. So again he made dua to Allah, Allah protect me from them with what you will. So he caused the boat to basically shake, and the people were drowned. The soldiers of the king were drowned, and he went back to the king. فجاء يمشي إلى الملك فقال له الملك ما فعل أصحابك فقال كفانيهم الله تعالى. And he asked again, what happened to your companion, the soldiers that were guarding you or trying to kill you? He said, Allah took care of them for me as He willed. فقال الملك للملك إنك لست بقاتلي حتى تفعل ما أمرك به. So the young boy told the king, you're not going to be able to kill me unless you do as I order you to do. Look, subhanAllah, I order you, the king. قال ما هو? So the king asks, and what is this? قال تجمع الناس في صعيد واحد وتصلبني على جذع ثم خذ سهما من كنانتي ثم وضع سهم في كبد القوس ثم قل بسم الله رب الغلام ثم أرمي فإنك إذا فعلت ذلك قتلتني. He said, just take me, basically gather all the people, in the valley, and put me upon, crucify me, basically, tie me up to the, kind of a cross type thing, and take an arrow from my arrows, from the thing that holds the arrows, take one of those and use my bow to shoot me, and say in the name of the Lord of this boy. Right? When you do that, if you do such, then you will be able to kill me. Bismillahi رب الغلام ثم أرمي, and then shoot. فإنك إذا فعلت ذلك فقتلني. فجمع الناس في صعيد واحد وصلبه على جذع ثم أخذ سهما من كنانته ثم وضع السهم في كبد القوس ثم قال بسم الله رب الغلام ثم رماه فوقع السهم في صدغه فوضع يده في صدغه فمات. So he did as the boy said. Basically, he took him and had him, put upon the tree, tied up to it, in an open field. And he took out the arrow from the quiver, he fixed it to the bow, he shot, and he said, "In the name of Allah, the Lord of the young boy." He then shot the arrow into the boy's temple. And the young boy placed his hand on his temple, and he passed away. He was martyred for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when the people saw this, فَقَالَ النَّاسُ آمَنَّا بِرَبِّ الْغُلَامِ فأتي الملك فقيل له أرأيت ما كنت تحذر قد والله نزل بك حذرك. So he basically, the people started saying, we believe in the Lord of the boys, right? We believe in the Lord of the boy. And his entourage said, like, what you were worried about, the people believing, has happened. The people started believing now. And فأمر بالأخدود بأفواه سكك فخذت وضرب فيها النيران وقال من لم يرجع عن دينه فاقمحوه فيها وقيل له اقتحم. So he said, basically gather all the people and start to make a huge fire and threaten the people that if you don't go back on your deen, on your faith, then you will be thrown into the fire. ففعلوا حتى جاءت امرأة ومعها صبي لها فتقاشعت أن تقع فيها فقال لها الغلام يا أماه اصبري فإنك على الحق. So they started throwing the people into the fire, and one of them was a woman who had a newborn child, and she started to hesitate. Basically, should I, go forth into the fire or not? And the young boy, he said, "O mother, be patient, endure. Verily, you are on the right path." And in the narration, she went in and she felt peace. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the fire for them peaceful, even though it was, apparently a torture. And this is, the surah, some scholars say Surah Al-Buruj is a reflection of this hadith that we just went through. So going back, inshallah, to discuss some of the benefits maybe we can derive from the hadith. There are many. First and foremost, even though they are disbelievers, but the king or the magician saw the wisdom in getting somebody to replace him, right? So he had a particular knowledge, and he feared if he passed away, that knowledge wouldn't be around, even though obviously it was a haram knowledge and something we don't like. But as Muslims, we can learn from the hikmah that if you have a knowledge and you're reaching a certain age, you should try to benefit the people with that knowledge before you are passed away. Or if you have a knowledge that can benefit the Muslims and you're able to impart that knowledge, do so before the chance is taken away from you, right? And also, we can take from the boy the importance of learning at a young age, right? He specifically asked to go call for me a young man, a young boy. Why is that? Why do you think? They learn quicker. What else? They retain longer, right? Basically, it's more beneficial to learn at a young age. Like they say, العلم في الصغر كالنقش في الحجر, right? Like memorizing or learning in the youth is like carving into the stone. Once they memorize, mashallah, they keep it. Whereas when you're older, you still can do it. Alhamdulillah, I've seen it, but it's a little bit harder of a struggle. So it's also, we learn from this hadith the importance of teaching the youth, right? Imparting upon the beneficial knowledge while they're younger so they can retain it more and be more beneficial from it. Also, we can derive that, when he was going to learn, and the monk told him to tell the family that he's with the sahir, or tell the sahir that he was with the family if they're late so he won't get abused. What does this show us? What lesson can we derive from that? Isn't that a lie? Is it halal to lie? Yes? Astaghfirullah. Is it halal to lie? Halal, permissible. No? No, yes. Okay. You're both right. So sometimes, obviously, in the majority of times, it's haram to lie. As-sidq is like matloob fil iman in Islam. Truthfulness is always like something that's appreciated. However, the Prophet ﷺ said there are 3 cases where it's permissible to lie. You can derive from all 3 cases if there is a maslaha kubra, there's a greater benefit, then it's permissible. So in this case, obviously the maslahah of learning the deen and not being beaten took precedence over this little white lie. So in certain cases, it's permissible, right? But in general, a Muslim is always honest. In this case, however, he feared being severely punished, and also he would be prevented from learning what is beneficial. So the monk gave him, this advice to do so, and we can learn from that too. Sometimes, to make sulh between two people, or to make peace, or if you're, in the middle of the Muslims are being oppressed, or etc., then there's certain leeways for a Muslim to, if you can, you call it avoiding the lie, but do tawri'ah, which is like kind of telling the truth, but in a way that's like, changing it a little bit. But if you have to, in order to preserve, especially life, or if you see like there's injustice going to be done, then you can, ride the general rule to not tell the truth in that situation.
It's a lie that allowed by the Rasulullah, right?
Yes, making sulh between two people. Like you go to one person and say that, even though they're fighting, you say like such and such said something nice about you and he feels bad and you should make peace. And then you go to the other one and say the same thing and they make, peace. And then in wartime, and then also between the husband and the wife, and then in a good way, obviously, not important things, but something like, she asks you how is her cooking, be nice and kind, even if you don't like it because she sacrificed to make it. For example, something that scholars say like that, or, does this dress make me look fat, or does this dress ugly, or something like that. You don't say, yes, it's ugly. You can say it in a nicer manner, basically. But try not to hurt the feelings of the spouse, and then vice versa. Also, we learned that it's the importance of istikhara, even in the previous because he made a form of istikhara when he said, "Oh Allah, if it is the rahib that is better, then kill the beast," right? So he's asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, consulting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide him to the right way. So this is a form of istikhara. So a Muslim, anytime they're about to make a major decision, it's always preferred to consult Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and pray istikhara beforehand. So even in the previous this concept was around. The other benefit is the monk told him, subhanAllah, after he killed the beast, it was kind of a miracle, right? A young man killing a major beast. We don't know exactly what the beast was, but obviously it was blocking the path, so it must have been something huge. But the boy was able to kill the beast with one throw of the stone. So it's kind of a miracle. But the monk saw something special in him, and he said that you will be tested, right? And this is basically a sign of the awliya, or the ones who are ulama, or the ones that were, like in a higher position with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that a test will come to you, right? It's happened like the Prophet said, أَشَدُّ النَّاسِ ابْتِدَاءً الْأَنْبِيَاء. Like the most severely tested of people are the prophets. ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ. And then the ones that precede them or follow them in iman, right? Etc. So the more iman you have, sometimes the test becomes harder. And you could be tested in good, or you could be tested in harshness. But the monk, in his hikmah, he knew this boy, because of his status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a test was going to come to him. And sure enough, the test came, right, as we're going to go to it. Also, we derive from this hadith that the attribution of the miracles for the mu'min is, or for any khair, it goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? If you're able to do something good, if Allah has given you a special knowledge, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you a special gift, you attribute it to Allah, right? When he was asked several times, he said, I don't heal. It's Allah heals. I make dua to Allah, and Allah is the one who heals. Taking it away. Because the shaitan will try to get to you from bab al-khair sometimes. If he can't get you to do evil, he'll come and try to get you to think that you're something special, right? And get you that way. That's why there's also like a story about Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala. He was trying to get out an evil jinn. Somebody was possessed. And the jinn spoke to him. It's like the shayateen of the jinn. And he said, I will come out because of your karama, or your miracle, your blessing. And he said, no, you don't come out you come out because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders you to come out. Because the shaitan was trying to trick me. If he had said yes, and then his nafs would have felt, special, like I'm taking the jinn out, and he's attributing the success to himself, then that's how the shaitan gets into Riyad, and then little by little can take you away from iman. So a Muslim always attributes kull khair ila Allah azza wa jal, right? All the benefits, all the blessings we have come from Allah So give shukr to Allah and give attribution to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, it shows that a shifa is from Allah, and to not lose hope, no matter what the sickness is. So we see in this case, for example, there was lepers, which is usually uncurable, the blind, usually uncurable, other illnesses. We know about Isa alayhi salam, for example, curing severe illnesses. So all this is in the affair of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because some people, they say that they take the medical diagnosis, he has a terminal illness, he's going to die within such and such time. We don't say that because we don't know. The shifa is from Allah. There have been cases of people who had terminal illness, they drank Zamzam, they made a special dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever it may be, and they were completely healed. Right? So never lose hope in asking Allah for shifa. Also, we learned the importance of da'wah. So in this case, the blind one, he heard about this ghulam and he went to him, right? And the ghulam, he used his position and his gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to call this person to Iman. He said, you have to believe in Allah first. And I'm sure, this is the summary of the hadith, but he could have given him da'wah. Obviously, he's going to tell him, well, who is Allah, until he believes. So if you have been given an authority, or you've given a certain skill set, or if you've been given a certain gift, use those opportunities to make da'wah. Maybe you're invited to speak in a non-Muslim place, right? Always present Islam. Always try to get it in whenever you're able to do so. Because you don't know who's listening and who will believe. Yesterday, alhamdulillah, I was able to give a talk in George Mason University. And I was surprised. It was like for the brother Marcellus Williams, and for the Palestinian, cause, what's going on in Palestine. They kind of got together, but half of the crowd, I was surprised, was non-Muslims. And I was mentioning some of the ayat and the hadith that inspired Marcellus Williams before his death to give him comfort. And many of them were like in awe, like they were listening to the first time they heard these type of ayat and hadith. And many of them came up and like talked to me afterwards and asking, So you never know, subhanAllah, where you are or who you're interacting with. Your words, if you have sincerity for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you make some da'wah and they become Muslim, it's a great reward. So always take your opportunities to give da'wah. And then we see the dhulm of the king and how he, basically took it upon himself to think that he is the Lord, right? And this is how the supreme dictators or corrupt rulers, sometimes they let the power get to their head to the point where they think that they are gods, they are legislators, that they are above the law, that they are better than everybody else, right? This is from the shaitan too, and they are from the worst people of the hellfire, right? The taghut. So we see that this person, was following the ways of the people before him, and anything that threatens this power, they try to eliminate it, right? So as soon as he said, Alaka Rabb ghayri, do you have another Lord besides me? Right? What is this thing that you're talking about? And then he gets, they have their same techniques. They use their spies, they use their intelligence services, they use their torturers, whatever, to intimidate the people to leave Islam, right? So torture to the point of threatening death. But the Muslim, the mu'min, he stays firm upon his deen. So it's the same routine and story that's played from the beginning of time until now. When righteousness comes and truth comes, the evil, the oppressor tries to wipe it out, right? Tries to stop it. He feels threatened by it because he doesn't want something worshipped besides himself. He doesn't want a system that's submitting to the creator instead of the creation. He wants to have full control of the people, right? So a Muslim, he's always wise. Alhamdulillah, we don't, submit to anybody except Allah Azza wa Jal. That's the right of him to be worshipped alone. And then, we see how the blind person, the rahib, and the boy all were willing to sacrifice themselves for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this situation, if you are threatened with death to recant on your faith, right, what should you do? Is it permissible or no? It's permissible? Everybody says permissible? So if somebody comes and puts a gun to your head to recant on your faith, and you can say, kalimat al-kufr, like the... Okay. So also this is fi tafsil. This also is a matter of, I guess you can say there has to be more clarification to it. So if you're a regular person, you have the right to utter the statement of kufr to save yourself, to preserve your life. It's permissible. You can also have the choice to remain on your faith and get martyred for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. طيب. However, the scholars say if you are in a position of authority, like an alim, or if you're having influence upon the people, and your statement could influence them, then it's not permissible at that time. So in this case, the boy, he knew that his case would influence a great mass of people, right, to become believers for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he had no choice in this matter. We see, like for example, the story of Imam Ahmed. So for those that don't know, Imam Ahmed at his time, there was a thing about the Quran being created. And many scholars, they took the rukhsa to say that so they won't be tortured. But Imam Ahmed, everybody was waiting for his opinion. So he didn't want to take that rukhsa, he didn't want to take that permission. He refused to recant, he refused to change the truth, and he suffered severely. They said that he was beat so much, he would fall unconscious sometimes. And he was an older man at this time, subhanAllah. And they would beat his back so badly that even the person that was beating him, a young, strong soldier, would get tired from beating him. Right? But he refused. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserved him, subhanAllah. All the imams, if you look at their history, some similar thing happened. Either they were asked to give a fatwa against what they believed in, or in this case, in the aqidah, they stood firm for the truth, even though they suffered prison, torture, humiliation sometimes. Radiallahu anhum. May Allah be pleased with them. So in these cases, it's permissible for a Muslim, or it becomes obligatory upon a Muslim of authority not to recant his faith or do that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Especially if you're going to have influence upon society. Also we see, so all these things that happen with the boy is a miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we also realize that even in the hardest of situations, if you make dua to Allah, He can relieve you. Right? Imagine you're a young boy, you're being taken by soldiers to be thrown off a mountain. You have no escape. Nothing. But he had tawheed in his heart, and he turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and made sincere dua, and Allah made the mountain, which is one of the hardest, most firmest structures on the earth, to shake. And threw them off to the point they shook so bad it threw them off. On the boat, in the middle of the ocean, in chains, with soldiers. What are you you think, khalas, it's over. No, he had firm faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and made dua because he had a big mission in his life. He wanted to spread the deen. He wanted to live to spread the deen. Right? He wasn't scared to die, but he wanted the people to hear about Islam. Right? Again, he made sincere dua, Allah saved him. And then he told the king how you would be able to kill him. And this is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the message spread throughout. And they all became believers. Alhamdulillah. Imagine the reward this person gets. And then finally, another miracle that occurs is that the child speaks. Excuse me? Yes.
So this dua from this Allahumma kfini ma shi'ta.
Yes.
Is it still applicable now?
Yes, it is. It's a dua the Prophet ﷺ taught us as well. So anytime you fear somebody or you fear something, you can say this dua. Allahumma kfini bima shi'ta. Allah kfihim bima shi'ta. Allah, take care of them with what you will. Right? Huh? Allahumma kfihim. Yeah, bima shi'ta. Yeah, akfinihim bima shi'ta. Like protect me from them with what you will. The other point was, yes, like I said, the other miracle, was the young baby speaking to the mother, And this is something that we have ithbat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Firmness comes from Allah, right? And some of us who are true believers, when the time comes, because if you're building your connection with Allah previously, Allah gives you thabat at the time of trial and tribulation, right? So you might have maybe, am I wrong? Maybe I should stop, maybe. And then Allah sometimes sends a sign to us to make us go forward, make us continue, make us strive. Don't give up. You're on the truth, right? And so this young baby spoke to his mother Imagine that, because subhanAllah, you imagine a new mother and she has a baby suckling and she's had to go into the fire, right? Maybe I should, save his life, maybe I should stop. And then the baby, subhanAllah, talks to her and tells her, you're on the truth. Don't worry, Allah will take care of us. SubhanAllah. And this is one of 3 babies that spoke from the cradle. Who are the other 2? Isa alayhi salam, yes. قال إني عبد الله, right? When Maryam was given the fast of not speaking, and they thought that she was like, they tried to accuse her, and they thought that she was making fun or something, pointing to the baby, but no, she was fulfilling her vow to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then Allah protected her by letting Isa alayhi salam speak to the people, saying, I am the worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Atani al-kitab wa ja'alni nabiyya. He gave me the book, He made me a prophet. And then there's a 3rd case, Jurayj. So he was a pious person Jurayj, he was a people from the children of Israel from the past, who was a worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to summarize the hadith, basically he was worshipping Allah in a sunnah, like praying sunnah basically you could say, and his mother was calling for him. And it's tough because he's like, okay, I'm praying to Allah, but my mom's calling me, maybe I'll just finish my prayer and then I'll answer her. And she kept calling and he kept trying to finish the salat or the prayer, and then she was frustrated and she made a dua against him, like, may you not die until you see the face of a prostitute or something like that. Out of anger, she didn't really mean it, but she was angry, and so she said some dua. So it teaches us as parents, never make dua against your kids, even if you're angry or frustrated, right? Because Allah, you don't know whether the dua is going to be answered. So anyways, he finished his prayer and went afterwards. So also the scholars say that one of the greatest nawafil that you can do is obedience to the parents. It even takes precedence over the nafil salah or nafil siyam, right? Because birr al-walidain is up there after worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this case, he should have listened to his mother because he was just doing a nafil. And anyways, he was falsely accused by a woman that he had sexual relations with her, and they went and tore down his ma'bad, his place of worship, and they were like, humiliating him, and they were going to torture him, etc. And even, I think in some narrations they might have even threatened to kill him or give him the death penalty because she falsely accused him of being the father of her child. And Allah made that child speak and say that this was not the father and such was the father, basically, to protect him at the end of the day. But this is one of the 3rd cases that we know of in the seerah or the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, that a baby spoke from the cradle. So alhamdulillah, these are some of the important lessons that we can derive from this hadith. Also, so it didn't technically mention sabr. We're still in the chapter of sabr, so I'll give you guys the quiz real quick. What are the lessons of sabr in this hadith? Where do we see the sabr? The trial? Yeah, so the boy having the patience upon his tribulation, even to the point of death. Also, the rahib, the monk, the worshipper. Also, the blind person. They were all patient with their deen, standing upon the truth, even to the point of death, right? And some scholars say also the patience of the boy, learning from the rahib in the beginning, even enduring being beat by his, the sahir, in order to get beneficial knowledge. He was patient in that learning. And so the scholars say these are some of the lessons of patience that we can derive from this hadith, that being firm upon the deen requires patience, even sacrifice. And the more patience you have and the more sacrifice you make, the higher levels of iman that you will attain and the higher levels of Jannah you will get to, right? And that's why the most severely tested of people are the prophets, and then after them, the scholars and those who have high iman like them after them. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those who are patient and stand firm for His deen. And we don't want to be tested. The Prophet ﷺ said, don't hope for being tested or tried. But if it comes, ithbatu, right? If it does come to you, be firm. Stand strong. And your reward will be Jannah, inshallah. Any questions or comments before we end? Almost time for Salat al-Isha. No? Okay. I don't know if there's pizza tonight, but I am hungry myself. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. جزاكم الله خير.